It's on mute over here, so. I'm sure I've been on camera a lot today. I thought I just had to wear black. Hi.
She needs to raise. We're working her
Duck.
and she's doing a great job.
Everybody duck. You know, it's kind of that little lady mentality. Just stay home, little lady.
Oh.
Yeah, I like that look on your face, like, oh, you're about to walk into it. Man, I live with one of those, so I know better.
Where that was headed.
I'd be looking for CARES Act money for a new place to stay. Right.
You live in one. I have three.
Are they all very strong-minded? Yeah.
And I love it and I don't.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting thing, you know, my girls, when they've been around my wife's parents, have always been with us.
Right.
So they went down to visit and they observed some of those generational type things that occur that don't occur in our household with respect to roles.
The obedience ones? Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine. We get to see that one pretty regularly. Every once in a while, my give will pop off. Well, Nana does this for me. Why don't you? Whoops. You're 9 years old? Let me tell you. When you want to make it to 10, you might want to shut your mouth.
I get to there for my 17-year-old
Yeah.
granddaughter. Sorry.
Are we back in second? We're ready for motion?
Not officially, yes. We are ready for motion.
Move to return to recess.
Second. Had a motion second to return Emergency Response Committee from recess. Mr. Matthews? Aye. Mr. Blount? Yes. Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Davidson?
No.
And Barnes is an aye. Thank most of you.
You're going to be crazy.
Here we go. Let's don't start it.
I just wanted to beat Joe to the no.
One thing I'd like to bring up, again, continuation, or I guess we need to reopen item number 7. I entertain motion.
So moved.
Second. Motion and second. Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Mr. Blount? Yes. Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Davidson?
Yes.
And Barnes. Thank you. Under item number 7, I took opportunity to make a mess with some ink and to clean up my list of the bullet points to be presented to the VOCC. And through some discussion and reflection, there was some discussion in the previous meeting a couple of weeks ago about continuation of the current public elevator guidance that we have in place. And I don't know that we formalized that through the VOCC. So if amenable to the committee, we'd like to add that as another of my bullet points to continue with the public guidance on use of the elevators, the 2 persons. I believe we had that set up to go through April, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I was just thinking that Keith would be the person that we would ask about that, and he's not in here, so. And I honestly don't recall, because that's one of those, if that ran across the board, but I don't.
I know we talked about it in this committee, but I don't think we ever actually moved it forward.
I think it was a recommendation.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, because we said 2 for each elevator here and 1 in ICB to go across PBA.
Those committees already recommended that.
It was to PBA or to DOC? I don't think it went across.
I don't think it went across either.
That's what I'm thinking.
You guys made a recommendation to both groups, but it never got.
Okay.
It probably won't. Another week. On his item?
Yeah,
Okay, perfect.
2 persons and 1 person PBA. That won't be good.
Yes, sir.
I don't think we need to add to the list we've already recommended. I think we need a separate.
Take that in.
Under PBA.
So you have an agenda item on PBA?
That,
I didn't even look at PBA.
No, there's not.
Okay.
So that's a question of the committee as far as including that in the bullet points for tomorrow.
Mr. Chairman, can I further muddy the waters?
Please do.
During the break, because of previous discussion that we were having regarding masks and recommendations there, I have adjusted or brought alternative signage.
Motion to accept documents.
So moved.
And second.
Second.
Motion and second. Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Dave? And Barnes is an aye. Thank you.
The previous signage, the one for masks, that masks required. And I've edited wording as an alternative to masks recommended. All persons aged 2 and over are encouraged to wear face masks covering their nose and mouth at all times while in Oklahoma County facilities. And then the second one, where we said you were prohibited from entering, you're discouraged from entering this facility if you have any of the following symptoms: fever of 100.4 or higher, persistent or severe cough, shortness of breath, or difficulty breathing, other symptoms as defined by the CDC, and added a bullet point: if you're currently exhibiting any of the above symptoms and have urgent business with the courts or county departments, please call the appropriate department or office. So those are alternative signage, depending on what this committee would choose to do.
I think I like this, Dan, especially as it pertains to what I think might have been the intent of the general public. Where I think perhaps we could strengthen our effort then is with upon review from the PA office, requiring our employees to wear masks. Or, as we discussed and Michael pointed out, there are certain things in place. So you wear a mask, or there are protections provided when dealing with the public or in the common areas of the building. Then we're not, there's that element of personal responsibility on the part of the citizen. We're not inadvertently denying someone access. The court's order speaks for itself. There's no confusion. We're requiring masks. The court order says return to supply.
While it would be my preference that all persons wear masks, I understand the reasoning that we may need to change that.
I might suggest that this is something that we would consider, that where it says you are discouraged from entering this facility, that it say members of the public are discouraged from entering this facility. Make that clear on both of these if we're going to consider then requiring masks for our employees. Employee policy, have a public discouragement. And the fact of the matter, we put up a sign that says you're prohibited from entering if you have any of these, and people can still come in.
We've had asymptomatic people in this building probably from day one. And no matter what signage we put up or requirements we have, they'll still come in because they don't know that they have it.
And that being said, we do the best we can to protect our employees.
That's where the mask recommended document or signage is important, whether you think you're symptomatic or if you're asymptomatic or not. The recommendation to go ahead and wear a mask and protect you as well as other persons.
I can make revisions to both of these for members of the public, changing that verbiage. And once, if the Board of County Commissioners approves, if we adopt this as a recommendation and the Board of County Commissioners approves this, then we can ask our planning engineering department to laminate these and perhaps even blow them up to a larger size and get them out as quickly as possible.
I think the placement, not specific placement, I'm interested. Widely distributed in public access, common areas,
Elevators, lobbies.
exterior building. That are the points I think is a big deal. So I entertain a motion to recommend the two signs provided by Mr. Matthews with the modifications we just discussed as a point of recommendation to DOCC.
That's in lieu of the previous signage. Move that.
Got a motion, is your second? Second. And roll call vote, Mr. Matthews. Aye. Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Mr. Davidson.
Aye.
Barnes is an aye. Motion passed.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
go back to this document that you prepared.
Yes, sir.
That says red highlights in it. seeing that on page 2 there, that first red bullet point, wear a face mask. That needs to be that, and I guess wear gloves. Needs to be really the last piece of this process.
And if the verbiage and gloves is added to the wear a face mask, then the second red bullet should actually be eliminated.
The change to incorporate the spit shields or whatever, the plexiglass.
My standard wording, hoping is adequate distance for business to barrier in place. Qualification.
And I like this document because it speaks to some of those things that I think Miles brought up. If you're sick, stay home. It reiterates that. Yeah. I just,
So where did we go with the wear a face mask?
well, I believe if given the action that we're going to make on the recommendation, that people are encouraged to do certain conduct, some members of the public, that in order to best protect our employees, we should require them, given it being reviewed and being permissible by the DA's office. But
That's what I'm hearing, wear a face mask, gloss of surgical style, and gloves as necessary when contacting the public or in close proximity to coworkers or customers unless adequate distance or barriers are in place.
sounds good to me. Does that take care of your issue earlier, Michael? Taking into consideration the shields that have been put in place and our employees not having to wear a mask?
That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, just because there's a barrier there, that's a false sense of security. It's like an exit door on an airplane at 35,000 feet. Yeah. It looks great. But again, the asymptomatic, we're not going to temperature test. We've already come out with that. So you're asymptomatic. You walk in here unknowingly, you infect me. You rush by some member of the public out there. You weren't wearing a mask. That member of the public turns around and says, well, that guy out there wasn't wearing a mask, and I knew COVID-19, I'd like to sue. Or something similar. I think it's just, I don't send you into a blizzard with, a wind coat. I go ahead and layer everything. And the way I see this is plexiglass, layer. These alcohol wipes, layer. Cleaning everything, layer. And I know you're with it. I understand.
I'm there.
I get it. But
I'm trying to reach a consensus so that we can put something forward. And nothing prevents, and I will say this, Miles, to the point of the layering. Nothing prevents me from wearing a mask, even with that protective barrier in place. Given what Aaron has said about we need to make sure that we have accommodations in place for those people that need it in terms of communication. Right, the mask, someone who is hard of hearing or deaf that relies on lip reading. Yeah. So.
That's nice of Aaron to take Steve Satterwhite into consideration, even though he's no longer here. He may visit.
Hello, Steve. In reference to social distancing, I mean, they've always said 6 foot, but then the news, either yesterday or today, gets on there and had some experts talk about droplets from an open mouth can go 10 to 20 feet, which means if I had my mask off and sneezed and the currents in this room, it could get to Cody. So, I mean, the social distancing is just a recommendation, and whether I'm wearing a mask or not, we're still at the mercy of the people around us. And if the sick people are gonna get up in our face or 20 feet away and sneeze, it's still out there. So, I mean, we could put steps upon steps upon steps, requirements and policies, and we're still not gonna get around the fact that if it's a contagious disease we're trying to avoid, then maybe I'll make arrangements not to be in a busy store. Or I go to the plexiglass at my pharmacy, and you have to walk around the plexiglass to hand them my money for the transaction. So what makes sense and what doesn't? So I think if we have some recommendations for the staff to follow, and these are good ones, then we move them forward and let the board decide.
Well, in that same vein of thought, while we're in this document, if you would take a look at the other red, I think page 2, we've hashed out, moving forward about protective gloves and include that to the face mask statement. Back on page 1, provision of disposable disinfecting wipes or materials to be used by employees within individual work areas. And possibly a comment as available, because it's my understanding that a lot of people are having a lot of challenge on disinfecting wipes. Our illustrious representatives from the county clerk's office.
My personal hoard.
Well, one of the good things is you got 300 gallons of
This is true.
disinfectant that can be put in the bottles and
That's right.
provided to our departments if needed.
That's true. And that's a point we're taking. There are other options. And that's where it says and or other materials. So I'm tentatively adding a comma as available at the end of that statement.
UV cannons.
I think the next bullet point is exactly what we're doing. Establishing guidance, signage, notification. Page 3 brings up the issue of traveling. Very generic statement about the symptomatic side of it. Obviously, that mentioned several times, not necessarily a true indicator, however.
We've never formally issued a travel ban, have we?
Well, for that matter, the
State has, yes.
and what's their language?
The early statements from the governor's office, there were 4 or 5 states that were listed early in the event. And if you travel from one of those, you would self-quarantine for 14 days.
Yeah. Sure. Given the research that you've done on the temperature aspect of this, would it be difficult to apply that and or do additional research regarding masks for employees and the public? For both. Similar to what you did here.
I mean, I think you could, I think the party was really clear one. I think the, thinking some of the site issues would apply is, I still need to know specifics. Are you contemplating a mandatory requirement that the public have masks before entering and they're going to be turned away? You may still have some of those, same concerns. I'm going to get some more specifics, but yeah, it probably would take much to
Okay.
just update.
In terms of the question, you said you might need some guidance on with regards to, are we going to require them to have a mask prior to entering the facility? I would think it would probably be, is that permissible, and or can we provide a mask if they don't have one? Some dual,
That might be a different issue because it's gonna, the source of funding for the mask may actually change the analysis, so I probably wouldn't write that way.
okay. So here's my preference. And I support Dan in an effort to move forward. But my preference would be that we require the public to wear masks. But there are probably some considerations in that, and Aaron's talked about a couple of those that would need to be vetted before we do that. The encouragement of people wearing masks is a means to avoid that because we can require our employees to wear the mask. And Miles, as you always point out to me when we have certain discussions, 2 people wearing a mask is much more effective than the 1. And so, given that we have a laundry list of items for the BOCC to consider tomorrow, as we head towards the 18th, perhaps we should just ask Aaron real quick to take a look at the mask issue for the public. And then request a special BOCC meeting.
To require the public to wear masks.
Yeah, just get an answer to the question.
And that can be done subsequent to what we discussed today, because that's a requirement as opposed to a recommendation, correct?
So we did, I would hold off on Dan's signage recommending, let's ask this question, get an answer. We still have 8 or 9 other things on that list that deal with getting people in and out of this building in terms of trying to reduce congregating and other things for tomorrow.
I see benefit of just running it, and we can ratchet it up if we're able. I mean, because what I keep seeing is our numbers daily going up and up and up and up. And what we're going to hit the 18th, and it's not going to be one of these slow ratcheted. It's going to be a mad rush. And I don't think we're anywhere remotely close to being prepared. And calling a meeting and asking Aaron to turn that around quickly, I don't know that we're going to be able to turn that opinion around quick enough to be able to require. So strongly suggesting that you wear is kind of that effective. Okay.
I mean,
It's just a stopgap.
okay. As long as it's understood that, and BOCC can undo anything that they do, so.
Yeah, absolutely. That can ratchet it up. I mean, absolutely.
So then we'd like, as a group, for Aaron and Carrie to take a look at the mask question.
For the general public.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty clear from Moy. Okay.
I would also, like, while you're here,
Thank you.
and you're contemplating how to frame this question, I mean, the more specific you can give me in terms of details of your plan, the better advice I can give you in terms of legality. I think you saw that with the memo that we did yesterday. Without specifics, I can throw ideas out there all day long, but I can't give you an actual answer. So when you're talking about masks, I gotta know, are we talking about, are some people going to be excluded from the mask requirement? On what basis? Are we just talking about public and employees? Are we talking about, I think that part's clear. The funding issue is a different issue. If you have ideas of where the funding will come from, that can change analysis, too. So, as much information as you can give me, the more definitive of an answer I can provide. But y'all need to discuss that amongst yourselves.
I think that's probably wise.
Yeah, I think it's great, because
I'm sure you're over there writing it.
I was a little hamstrung in asking the question because I didn't know what this group wanted to do. So it was no fault of Aaron's that it was broad.
Yep.
So, Aaron, mask required for entry. If you don't have a mask, then you're prohibited from entering the building. I could envision a potential scenario where there is a medically necessary reason that you wouldn't wear one. So something along those lines, where it might be an ADA type issue. That pretty good? Okay. All right. Y'all keep thinking.
What's your thoughts on the top of page 3 issue and regarding travel hotspots? Again, intentionally crafted as generic.
Do you have plans to go to China that I'm not aware of?
No, sir.
Okay.
We don't know where our employees may have chosen to travel.
No.
I guess the question is, do you want that left in there, modified?
There was, let me go back to potential questions for Aaron, there's consideration. In the request on the temperature taking, there was a question, if you answered it, I may have missed it, regarding if we were doing temperature scans and someone was turned away who was here via subpoena, a witness, etc., had to be a court appearance, obligation of the BOCC to notify the court for legal ramifications there. Would that question be applicable in this? You all good with that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Those two?
I think that's
So let me just throw in here. What I'm hearing though is not really much detail in terms of what sort of plan you're asking us to review. I get the question. Questions don't have to. It's not that we're not asking the right questions. We're not asking enough questions. What I need from this body would be develop what your proposed plan would be. Fact, that kind of fact-specific sort of discussion.
So like, all individuals entering the building shall wear masks unless there's a medical necessity that would limit them from wearing the mask. If the individual does not have a mask, the county will provide a mask that is funded through the CARES dollars sent to the county by the federal government.
And if that's the factual scenario that's being posed, that's fine. But I mean, that's exactly the point I'm trying to make. I need the facts.
Yes, I can provide that.
Okay.
What else?
and not scary. but it had envisioned exactly, almost exactly what Cody said. That the one caveat there is the CARES Act money. I mean, I'm assuming that we're going to use masks to hand out to the public that we've already purchased.
Or that have been provided through the Strategic National Stockpile.
Yep.
I think you can provide, with regards to that issue and the provision of masks, there could be multiple avenues for that.
Yeah.
David just mentioned the SNS.
We could utilize those masks, purchase masks,
Mm-hmm.
the CARES money to replace
Supplement our own
stockpile that we use.
Yep.
Issue, prior to the actual.
In the week.
That's why I asked.
Which is where I was going. To which, if I recall correctly, again, I'll use my toilet covers, which are PPE, that are bought with general fund dollars. So it seems to me like we're already providing PPE to general public in multiple ways, more than just that.
Right, I agree. To me, it's analogous to that.
Yeah, it is.
The toilet rings, the soap, the disinfectant towels, yeah. But it doesn't matter that it is to me.
Yep.
My opinion. Okay, so potential to use CARES money, potential to have the Strategic National Stockpile, which is under the authorization of the federal government and the state of Oklahoma, correct?
And likely short term.
Anything else?
I mean, is there anything wrong with just what Cody said? Just let's move forward.
Oh, no, that's what it would be essentially.
Okay.
But there is the aspect of if we're going to provide the mask, the question can be as simple as, may we deny entry to persons who do not wear a mask in this facility? It gets more complicated if we're contemplating providing those, and then that's where those avenues come in. And if you ask about one and it's impermissible, well, then we find ourselves potentially going, but what about this one? And so do we try to ask everything at once?
Yeah, I get that. Again, we're trying to get to that.
And I'm happy to let one of y'all ask the question as well.
We're trying to get to that zero risk.
Good job. Yes.
That zero risk that doesn't necessarily exist. I mean, we're trying to get as close to that as possible. And that's the lawyer's job, to get us to that zero risk.
Y'all have as a template the framework for the questions that I asked regarding temperature, so somebody wants to do it. How about it?
I ask is there a scenario that we think we're going to require a mask? Because from day one, these CDC things have been guidelines. And my concern is, it's one thing if we're going to offer masks if you don't have one. It's another one to say, no, you're not coming in if you're not going to wear a mask. Now, employees, that's a different subject matter because you're the employee.
Yeah, that's kind of covered under OSHA and DOL and
Yeah.
BIOSH and all of it.
And then I guess the other twist is, do we have the authority and would we want to be known as those throwing someone out because they didn't wear a mask?
So there's a lot there.
Well, if you said throw things around, I know.
Let's just mirror the state capitol.
It's,
That's nice and easy.
you know, part of asking the question is to know what you can and you can't do. It doesn't mean that just because you can, you will. Or should. Correct.
Dan tells me that all the time. It is another tool in the tool chest. You know, the issue of a mask and being known as the group that drove someone out. If the person who's not wearing a mask is exercising appropriate judgment and responsibility, and that they are truly not a threat, that's one thing. But there are those instances where, A, they may not know and not have any intent to cause harm to someone else, or B, they may just flat not care. I'm going to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and by golly, it's a public building and you can't deny me access. Therefore, they put other people at risk. I believe we have at least an obligation to look into whether or not we can try to prohibit some of that, protect people. You know, it's somewhat kind of like the vaccination argument, right? Well, I don't want to vaccinate my kids. Well, yeah, but your kids come to public school with my child, so therefore you're putting my child at risk. Your rights end where my nose begins. And so I think asking a question doesn't mean that that's an avenue the board is going to pursue, but it does provide them with the information necessary to make an informed decision should they want to consider it. So, I mean, we've got an alternative. We're recommending the wearing of masks. We can certainly do our employees as we recognize. And building upon the layers theory, do we ask the question about the general public? And that's all this is about. So I will or I won't ask the question.
I think it's entirely appropriate to ask the question. Whether or not we move forward with it is a different topic. But with the openings that are taking place now and will be taking place in the future, we may see another spike in the number of cases that are out there. And we need to be prepared for that as well. So I think it's entirely appropriate to ask. Now may not be the time to implement, but it may be at some point in the future if it is permissible.
I think we should just follow the guidance of the state, our lawmakers. And if you step foot in Capitol, wear a mask. Public or elected official. I mean, that's the people's house. This could be the people's
I'll refrain
county courthouse.
on that.
I mean, I understand the asking, I just don't.
And I would,
Personally, I just don't think it's necessary.
and I would further recommend that you handle that ask. You do a great job in writing those.
Acclamation.
Red Road.
3-1, I'll abstain.
You just like me, you say no.
I heard a vote. Was there a motion?
Straw poll.
Straw poll, there you go. You want us to memorialize that? Okay. So that, David, the page 2 bullet point, the first red bullet point, wear a face mask when contacting the public, or are we going to take that one off of red and we're good with that? Good with that black?
The modification is where face mask off surgical style and gloves as necessary when contacting the public or in close proximity to coworkers or customers, unless adequate distance or protective barriers are in place.
Okay. You said it's close proximity of coworkers.
That gives you the option.
Yeah. So I think that one's good. And then the protective gloves,
As needed.
that's fine. Who does that? That's more clerk and treasurer and assessor. And if I recall correctly, I know that at least, well, let me just say this. I think there are multiple elected officials that are already requiring gloves. And I think did Stein say something about gloves today? Do you recall? Does that make sense, Dan? Did he say that?
I can look up.
I don't recall, but. And if we've got masks on and touching our face with gloves.
When you do this, the gloves will be provided to use when needed.
Okay. So can we move the wearing protective gloves from red to black?
Sounds great.
Cody, I'm having flashbacks to developing the trust. Can we move it from red to black?
I've got hand gloves as necessary, right behind the face mask.
And Mr. Stein's letter says plexiglass barriers to protect employees are being installed before your return. Protective masks and gloves will be provided when necessary.
So that would be in line.
Sounds good. So then at that point, I think the only one that remains is the travel limitization or ban. And I think your original statement is probably enough, because it seems to me like a lot of your second is covered.
It's not necessarily
Kind of others. Yeah.
So eliminate the red on that one, is that your recommendation? I see several people.
It just seems redundant. We can go either way, honestly.
At the bottom of that page, potential questions, to be honest with you, I don't know that I want to wade into the assessment documents, the statements. I believe, yes, Mr. Matthews provided copies of the ACO provided documents at our last meeting. Unless it's important to this group to wade into that, potentially deep quagmire, my recommendation is to avoid it. At least for now.
I would totally agree with that.
And the last bullet point is that not previously ill stating of follow guidance as provided. I don't think that's necessary. Their employees here, the department heads, supervisors, elected officials can govern that within their departments. So unless there's further discussion on those, I would entertain a motion to provide this as one of the recommendations to BOCC to be provided to all employees prior to or upon May 18th as a recommended guideline and, excuse me, informational document from this group.
So move.
A motion, do I hear a second?
Second, Dan, is that easily emailed to all employees by your office?
Everyone.
Yeah,
Um,
I just wanted to make sure that we were good with that. And Joe, to kind of keep in line with what you've suggested previously, we posted a lot of that stuff on our online.
Right.
Do you think we should make a recommendation to advise the general public on our website as well as our buildings to the recommending a mask, et cetera?
I think that would be wise.
Okay, would you accept an amendment to make that recommendation for our website as well?
Yes,
And I'll second that. To our two signs that we're gonna post up here in the buildings. That we work with MIS to do the same notification on our website to the general public so they can access that before they come down here.
might I also say that if we could get a press release out, and/or a press conference or media blitz of some kind prior to Monday, so that the public is additionally aware, would be, I think, advisable.
We discussed a little bit of that yesterday. I still think it's a good idea to have the unified voice. Joe had mentioned something about doing press alert for tomorrow's meeting. And then we're going to discuss it in the meeting upon your approval and everything. And I think the vote would be the unified voice. And if the press was so inclined to be here, then I would hope that the elected officials would all be singing the same tune after, hopefully they had voted on it and just passed it. Does that? Now, I would love to do a press conference on the courthouse steps with all three of them and sing the same voice, but I think there may be some hurdles to that.
I know we've got
Open meeting being probably the biggest.
I know we've got some public information officers that could perhaps write press release to get out to the newspapers, radios, TVs, whatever, that will help put that word out.
Yeah, just a quick press alert availability. Michael, is Brake still working with you? Would you be amenable to that?
Upon the, positive vote of BOCC, I think something should be released.
Yeah. What I'm saying is if Brake can just do a press availability or a press alert that this item will be voted on and commissioners will be available for comment after the meeting. Can he do that, or would?
Well, assuming our commissioners are all in house, are you saying that they're all coming down for that meeting?
Who said? Sorry, I missed that part.
Well, you're suggesting that the commissioners are gonna be here for some kind of press conference. Are they gonna be here?
Oh, that's a good point.
I would suggest anything that's passed tomorrow, then we do a press release after.
That's probably best. Yep.
And,
I never even thought about the hurdle of getting people here. So.
yeah, I'd recommend that that be included as another items that they do approve in the BOCC meeting be included or appear in a press release subsequent to that meeting. I'll put that to them as one of the items. Technically, they anyway, because it's public records, their action. Report about, excuse me, the other elected officials, including on the websites. I think there's a certain number of people who if they have business, say with the assessors or the treasurer's office, they're gonna go to their website.
Mhm.
And if we can get that coverage in each of those individual pieces of the website, in addition to the county website, we have a greater chance of getting information out.
Mhm.
I can,
So there was a motion and a second to make those recommendations with
with the friendly amendment attached.
Sorry, what was that, Ted?
that motion was to make the recommendation to BOCC, your bullet point items, and included the
Press release.
the alert on the website. I wouldn't even touch the press release stuff. Just
Okay.
assume that it's being done, and it will be done.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Further discussion? Mr. Matthews?
Can we go over the list one more time?
I actually cleaned that up during the budget board, although it's gotten a little cloudy again, I'll go through it. And I did try to prioritize these a little bit. Continued encouragement for telecommuting and or staggering workforce and or work schedules. Provide second would be continued emphasis to stay at home if ill or experiencing or exhibiting CDC recognized signs or symptoms of COVID-19. Provide ADA-related accommodations and assistance as necessary or requested. Modify entries and exits as follows. North Annex access for customers only. Employee entry at the west alley gate. East courthouse entry for courthouse activity. West courthouse access for exit only. And west annex door reopened for exit only. Freight elevator repurposed for employee use, limited to no more than 4 persons wearing masks. Scaffolding provided to protect pedestrian traffic in the alley and at the east courthouse entry. Use of signs as modified by Mr. Matthews, widely distributed in common areas, outdoors, etc., and to include information on the website. Use the employee guidance document that we have just modified and emailed to everyone to include items approved at the BOCC meeting on the website and encourage individual elected officials' webpage also at the current list. And I brought up at the first of this reconvening, the issue about a continuation of public elevator guidance in the annex, 2 persons and 1 person in PDA and metro parking for an undetermined time frame. So that last one, we did take formal action on, but prior to that, all those others we have.
We've taken formal action on the last one previously. We made the recommendations that what you're talking about, the recommendations for the elevators and everything. So we
Extend that.
I think that's what we did was recommended the extension.
Do we have a time frame on that?
I think we went to May 31.
Okay,
Pretty sure we did.
I'll strike that one from that. And all those
But
others.
the board still needs to formally adopt that as well. So we might,
Strike that.
I'm striking.
yeah, leave that on there. It's just, we don't have to vote on it.
But one clarification on that is that there's 2 in metro parking, except for the elevators and going down to the tunnel from the annex.
There's 4 in Metro.
Well, two per car in metro.
Oh, okay. I understand.
2 metro parking except for,
And annex to tunnel. And that's 1.
All right, so the elevator requirements was something we recommended in a previous meeting, we just haven't forwarded. So we don't have to do anything with that except forward it.
We can leave it in there and just make one giant recommendation. Let's just make it so.
Well, no, because we've already made a motion and a second passed it, about 2/3 of that list, but the motion on the, before us right now is the reopening guidelines document as amended, red bullet points versus travel, all those items. And then the second item was, your friendly amendment was the signage.
No, I thought we already approved the guidance, the employee guidance, reopening guidelines. The last thing that we were discussing was to include items approved in the VOCC on the website. That was the additional bullet item.
Okay.
We might yield to the clerk representative over there, but I think we already approved the reentry guidelines with the modifications that we discussed.
I don't think we voted on anything.
Okay.
The motion was,
We did because we drove, we needed to do clarification.
yeah, the motion was to take all your bullet points
Okay, and the reopening guidelines.
and reopening guidelines.
So we have a motion, do we have a second?
Yes.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
God, I hope.
Roll call, Mr. Matthews.
Aye.
Mr. Blau. Yes. Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Mr. Davidson.
Aye.
Barnes is an aye. Thank you. Any other items of discussion under item number 7? The motion to accept the discussion action item for number 7. Discuss that. I think that was a separate. We need a motion to accept the
Documents,
discussion review and action.
so moved.
Second.
Motion second, Mr. Matthews.
Aye.
Mr. Brown. Yes. Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Mr. Davidson.
Yes.
Barnes is an aye. All right, discussion possible action, determine next meeting date and time. We have a meeting scheduled for Monday, May 18th, 12 p.m. to the SEC room. Want to recess this week?
Yes, move we recess till noon tomorrow, the 13th at noon in this same room.
Second.
Yeah, motion and second to recess until Wednesday, May 13th noon in the VOCC room. Matthew.
Aye.
Wow. Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Mr. Davidson.
Yes.
Barnes is an aye. Thank you.
We had Bob. We lost Bob.
I don't think he's back to recess.
Yeah, he came back.
Came back for a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will, get these bullet points typed up and shoot them out to y'all that we agreed on.
Thank you.
Everybody's clear as
You're
mud.
welcome.